Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about grief management. In the last class we had a discussion regarding what is grief and stages of grief. So what is grief? Grief means a normal and natural reaction to a loss, and this loss might be someone or something which is very important to us in our life. And one thing we must understand that everyone grieves differently because it is a personal experience. My grief is entirely different from yours. Mine is my own. My pain is my own. Yours is yours own. So everyone grieves differently. Again, I'm telling, grief means a natural and normal reaction to a loss, and this loss might be someone or something which is very important to us in our life. According to a Swiss American psychiatrist, there are 5 stages of grief. They are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial means in that stage the person will try to pretend that the loss does not exist. They will tell like the situation can't be happening to me. But this is a temporary feeling. From that stage they will enter into the second stage of grief, that is anger. In the stage of anger, the person will feel extreme emotional discomfort, and this extreme emotional frustration and discomfort will turn into the form of anger. This anger will take us to a stage of isolation. From the anger stage, we will enter into the third stage of grief, that is bargaining. In that stage, you will be too much desperated and you are ready to do anything to minimize this pain. So, you will make deal with higher power and God. So, make this not happen, and in return, I will do anything as your wish, God. Like that, we will do deal with the God or higher power. From the bargaining or imagination stage, they will enter into the depression stage, that is the fourth stage of grief. In the depression stage, the emotional fog will be getting clear and the pain and the problem will be more visible. So, the problem will be visible, that means the person will enter into the stage of depression and they will do a statement like, I'm too sad to do anything. So, they are in the depressive stage. But this is very common and natural stage of grief. From this depression stage, we will enter into the last stage of grief, that is acceptance. In the acceptance stage, the person or we will reach to a conclusion that the laws can't be changed. We have to accept the reality and we have to move on. So, we will enter into an emotional survival stage with no bargaining, no anger, no denial, etc. So, these are all the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now we are going to see grief management. Already I have told you grief is a natural and normal reaction to a loss. So grief is a natural thing. So in most of the cases we no need of treatment for grief. But if the grief is continuing for a long time and giving disturbances to us both physically and psychologically, means in that case we have to approach a grief psychiatrist, grief therapist or grief counselor to get treatment. The first thing in the grief management is to find out which kind of grief the client is undergoing, such as a temporary loss or a permanent loss, or the loss of someone loved one, or unexpected loss, or suicide or accident, or loss of freedom or lifestyle, or chronic disease, etc. etc. So, first we must understand, or the therapist must understand, which type of the grief the client is undergoing. There are 2 type of grief managements are there. They are grief therapy and counseling. So grief therapy, grief counseling. So these are all the 2 type of grief management. Before going to the therapy and management, we must understand the difference between what is therapy and what is counseling. So, what is counseling means? Counseling is used to cope up with normal issues and problems. So, counseling is used to cope up with normal issues. The problems are minimal and less, means in that time we will go with counseling. Therapy is used to deal with more difficult, more chronic problems like depression, anxiety, or addiction. So, this is the difference between counseling and therapy. If you see this example, it will be more clear for you. If a lady lost her husband and simply struggling to cope up with the loss of her husband, she may seek grief counseling. So, simply struggling and there is no anxiety, no depression, means in that case she needs grief counseling. But at the same time, due to loss of her husband, If she has appetite problem, sleeping problem, anxiety problem, depression and addiction problem for continuous week means it indicates that it may be more serious problem and that she seeks grief therapy. So this is the difference between counseling and therapy. Now we will see what is grief therapy management. There are two types of grief therapy mainly we are using for grief. They are psychotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. First, we will see what is cognitive behavioral therapy in grief. Cognitive behavioral therapy is based on the idea of emotions, behaviors, and thoughts. And this cognitive behavioral therapy will help us to learn how to react to thoughts and external stimuli in ways your behaviors and emotions you desire. So, it will help to learn the thoughts, it helps to learn the external stimuli, it will help to learn the emotions and how we have to express in which way you desire. According to a study cited by National Cancer Institute, cognitive behavioral therapy was more successful than counseling in relieving mental distress related to grief. So, thus cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT is playing a major role in grief management. If you are checking means you will get more information about CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. What is cognitive behavioral therapy? Techniques of cognitive behavioral therapy and how we have to do cognitive behavioral therapy. Second thing is psychotherapy. Complicated grief is often treated with a type of psychotherapy called complicated grief therapy. So the grief is too much complicated. In that time we will do psychotherapy or we will do with psychotherapy, and this psychotherapy is known as complicated grief therapy. This treatment can be effective when done individually or in a group. During therapy, the client will learn about complicated grief and how it is treated. Also help us to explore complicated grief symptoms and how to adjust to loss and redefining the goal. So, this psychotherapy is using to understand the complicated grief and how it is treated, how the complicated symptoms, how we can explore the complicated symptoms, how we can adjust to the loss and how we can redefine the life goal. So complicated psychotherapy or complicated grief therapy we are using to understand the complicated grief symptoms, how we can adjust to the complicated grief and how we can redefine the goals. Next is grief counseling. If the grief is chronic and interferes with normal functioning, grief counseling can be helpful to address and understand the emotions and move on with the healing process. So, in grief counseling, we will do counseling to understand the emotions and move on with the healing process. The main goal of most of the grief counseling is to help the client to integrate the reality of their loss into their life to move forward. Ensuring a safe environment to the client to explore and open up all the feeling is very important in counseling process. So that is very important. You have to provide a safe environment to the client while talking or while doing counseling. That is very important to open up all the problems, to explore all the problems or to alleviate the sufferings. Three main techniques we are used in counseling are provide safe environment, allow them to talk. So first we have to provide safe environment. Second thing is distinguish grief from trauma. So we have to understand the person is undergoing any grief or trauma. What is trauma means? Trauma is an event or it can be an event that causes psychological, physical or emotional, mental harm such as death or abuse. So we must understand the client is in the grief stage or in the trauma stage. That is the second technique we have to use in counseling. Third thing is deal with any guilt they are feeling and help them to organize the grief to understand in which stage they are right now. To understand either in the denial stage or in the depression stage or in the bargaining stage or in the acceptance stage. So that is the third techniques we are using in the grief counseling. So first thing, provide a safe environment. Second, distinguish grief from trauma. Third thing, help them to organize in which stage of grief they are right now. So these are all the three techniques we have to use to do counseling. Next thing is coping and support. How we can cope with grief and how we can overcome this grief. Stick to your treatment plan. If grief is too much complicated only, we will consult a therapist or counselor. So in that time, we must stick to your treatment plan. Then get nutrition, good nutrition, Take enough rest and sleep. Practice stress management. Take care of yourself. Reach out to your faith. Increase social interaction or socialization. Plan for functions or anniversaries. Learn new adaptive skills. Join a mental health support group and accept help and be creative. So these are all some techniques or methods we can use to copy with the grief. We have to stick on the treatment plan. We have to get enough nutrition, enough sleep, enough rest, and enough exercise. Do practice stress management with the guidance of therapist. We must take care of ourselves. That's very important because it's our own pain, it's our own personal experience, and react to your faith. Increase socialization, interact with society to overcome the pain, plan for functions and anniversaries which give happiness to us, and learn new adaptive skills to alleviate the tensions and sufferings, and join in mental health group to get teach and guiding from them, and accept the help and be creative. Next thing is deal with the grieving process. How we can deal with the grieving process? First and foremost thing is acknowledge your pain. You must understand that it's a pain. You must understand that it's a reality. So acknowledge your pain. Then accept that the grief can trigger many different and unaccepted emotions. So we must understand that this grief can create lot of problem physiologically and psychologically. That you must understand. Then understand that your grieving process will be unique to you. It is a personal experience that we must understand. Then seek out face-to-face support from people who are giving care and who cares about you. If someone is ready to help you, get the help from them. Then support yourself emotionally by taking care of yourself physically. Get enough food, enough nutrition, enough rest, and enough sleep. And recognize the difference between grief and depression. If you can't able to understand the difference between grief and depression, you get support from a counselor or psychiatrist to differentiate what is grief and what is depression. So in that way you can deal with the grieving process. So while coming to a conclusion, we can understand that try to face your feelings. Don't let anyone to tell that how to feel, and don't tell yourself how to feel either. Your grief is yours own and no one else can tell you when it is time to move on or get over it. This is about grief management. Hope you understand. Thank you.